Hello, good morning. It's Wednesday, it's 8 a.m., and I absolutely love to go live on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. to talk about your challenges and opportunities. And before I begin, I just want to welcome all of the new members of the Euphoric community in the private Facebook group. Oh my gosh, it's exploded. So many of you are here to do the Think Like a Non Drinker challenge starting next Monday. And I am so excited for you to be here. I'm so excited to go on this challenge together because, like, this is an affirmation of awareness and consciousness. This is taking a stand and massive action to create the kind of change that you want in your life and to free yourself from the mental burdens and the habits that don't really serve you and where you want to go in life. So, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you need to get in on the challenge. It starts on July 13th and goes to the 15th, and it's happening in the Facebook group and the Euphoric community. And you need to sign up to get in the emails and all the goodies and all the workshops. So the link to sign up is both in the link in my bio on Instagram, and I will leave a comment here in the Facebook group if you haven't signed up yet. If you have, I'm so excited. We start on Monday, and what better time than now to really reaffirm like the decision to explore alcohol-free living. Alcohol sales are through the roof right now. People are resorting to the most unhealthiest coping mechanisms and habits possible. And it's also like a time where we have way more awareness about what alcohol really does to our bodies and to our minds. And like, what better time to affirm to yourself, like, what do I really want in my life? Like, what dreams am I really passionate about creating for myself? What life am I passionate for going after? And how can I, like, envision the best path forward there? And so that, like, drinking literally falls to the wayside. Because trust me, anyone who's like, I enjoy the taste of red wine and I love drinking, like, you know what's so much more enjoyable than all of that stuff? Like, living out your biggest dreams. Hands down. Hands down. And that's the coolest thing, and that's the reason why I'm so passionate about this work, is I don't care about whether you drink this beverage or that beverage at the end of the day. What I care so much about is living an alcohol-free life or transforming your relationship or taking a break, whatever that looks like for you. It manifests your biggest dreams. They come forward, they come rushing to you, they come to your forefront. You have the clarity, the passion, and the purpose and the intuition to go after what you really want in life. And that's why I do this work. This is why it's so important to me to do this. So next week on Monday morning, the Think Like a Non Drinker challenge starts, and we're literally going to imagine a world where alcohol doesn't exist and kind of take away all of the constructs and all of the paradigms that are holding us down and really just let ourselves imagine and start to adopt the mentality of someone who just doesn't care to drink. Because if alcohol wasn't even in our world, like, what could you do? What could you do? Well, for me, first of all, I could have like 15 years of my life back and my mornings back and my health back, but not thinking in the past, like, what could you do today? What could you do? What could you build for yourself? What could you create? What could you accomplish in your life if you didn't have this, like, unhealthy coping mechanism that always just pulls you down and, like, makes you press pause on all the health goals and makes you completely forget about the life goals and makes you always, like, slows down your progress, always makes you feel worse, always lowers your self-esteem, all of these things. So, with that, I hope you join if you haven't already, and if you're already in, I'm so excited to welcome you. That's going to be so exciting. We're going to be super high energy next week. We're going to have homework and action steps and all this reflection so that you can take the mentality again of a non-drinker and use it to propel you forward into what you really want in your life. And that's, again, the most important part of this. So let's dive deep, though, into today's topic. And I kind of want to start painting this reality for you. And the question that I received today is alcohol going the way of cigarettes? And it's a very interesting time that we live in society today because, on one hand, probably you and everyone you know have been brought up to this idea that alcohol is like a constant. It's a constant part of the equation of being human. It's been in our history for so long. We drink, we'll always drink. Alcohol is how you socialize. It will always be how you socialize. It will always be how you relax. It will always be all these things. And yet, I think the current trends and the current messages that we're getting today, our society shifting. It really is shifting, and I do believe that alcohol is going to go the way of cigarettes. And let me share with you some evidence to show why that is. And then also share with you that by the very act of being here, by the very act of watching this video, by being in this group, by looking into your relationship with alcohol, by taking breaks, like you are light years ahead of the bell curve. You are light years ahead of achieving your goals and dreams because you're already looking at your relationship with alcohol today and not 10 years from now. Today and not 5 years from now. You are ahead of the bell curve. So, is alcohol going the way of cigarettes? Well, from a purely health understanding of how we treated cigarettes in the past, and then all of the kind of enlightening studies that happened in the 60s to really help us broaden our understanding of what cigarettes really do to our body, yes. Yes. So for a long time, alcohol has been treated as, of course, over drinking and drinking way too much has been always kind of like a no-no for your health. But it's been kind of a gray line because doctors then also say, like, well, a glass of red wine is good for your heart and moderate drinking is just fine and moderate drinkers are healthier than non-drinkers. And then we have this kind of reality where, well, most people don't have one glass. I mean, seriously, when was the last time you went to a dinner party that had wine and everyone just had one glass and stopped, right? That's not our reality. That's not the world we live in. We overdrink. That's the normative behavior in society. It's not even frowned upon for having a second glass of wine. Like, yeah, right, that's normal. So we have those things to contend with. But just the way that cigarettes were kind of debunked as like bad for you, like even a small amount of cigarettes, like there was no reason, no health reason, no only more risks over time with cigarette smoking. We have the same evidence and comprehensive evidence about alcohol. So the Lancet study was finished in 2016, and it actually took years to compile because it was the biggest study ever done on causes of death. And it wasn't just about alcohol, it was all causes of death. So basically they looked at data from all of these other studies. They took out the disparities and the stuff that like makes flawed studies, and they normalized all of it. They took data from 195 countries. They took data from all age groups. And the number one thing that the study found was that there's no safe amount of alcohol. That even the so-called moderate drinking is related to more health risks over time. And it completely like shattered this myth that we have that moderate drinking is good for you. And even if there is some underpinnings of this moderate drinking is good for you still going on in our culture and our health circles, like there's also an understanding that nobody quite drinks quite moderately. Very, very occasional light drinkers might drink moderately, but people who have a regular habit with alcohol are very unlikely to drink what's called moderately, because I mean, even this one statistic tells us that a woman's risk of getting breast cancer goes up 15% if she has 2 drinks a week. Now, I'm sorry, but if I had 2 drinks in a week, like, raise your hand if that would have been the healthiest week of your drinking life. Like, are you kidding me? 2 drinks a week is now considered bad for you? Like, that's crazy for a drinker, right? And so it really just goes to show that these studies have proven that there's no safe amount of alcohol. Every amount of alcohol in your life is related to more risk over time in your health. And what's cool about that is that it's starting to shift our culture. And if that scares you, I just want to give you a little bit of solace, because the body has an incredible healing mechanism. And there's just as many studies that show that time away from alcohol like heals your body back to the levels of a non-drinker so fast. So within just 2 weeks of not drinking, your gray matter grows back, your neurons regenerate. Within 5 weeks of non-drinking, your cholesterol goes down, your blood pressure goes down. Actually, your blood pressure goes down within just 2 weeks. And don't forget, your cholesterol and your blood pressure are the number 2 indicators of whether or not you're going to get heart disease later in life. So this is a huge deal. If you could lower the 2 number 1 indicators of whether or not you have at risk for heart disease just by not drinking, like, hello, how many people are on medication for those things? How many people have been struggling with these crazy diets for years to lower either their cholesterol or blood pressure? Like crazy extreme diets where you eliminate everything and here all you have to do is not drink alcohol. Like, that's kind of a win-win, right? Within 6 months to a year, your liver goes back to the levels of like someone who wasn't a drinker. Like, it completely heals all the liver fat, especially if you were a gray area drinker. If you were a more severe drinker, it could take more time, but as a gray area drinker, you know, your liver will rebound back to like its pre-drinking levels within about a year. Within 2 years, your heart risk your heart disease risk goes down, and within 5 years your cancer risk goes down, and within just 5 weeks, I want to say too, your cancer markers go down. So the markers that they can find in your blood for cancer or cancerous growth, they can go down within just 5 weeks of not drinking. So even though the health studies are telling us there's no safe amount of alcohol to drink, I need you to not like be like, oh shit, that sucks for me. Like, I might as well just keep drinking because I've already like gone, I've already exposed myself to all the risk. No, that's not true. Any day that you start, any amount of less alcohol that you drink today, any break that you take, anything like that you start today, you will reap like so much healing. Your body is so miraculous in that way. So just get started. Do not worry about what you've already done. It's kind of like exercise. Like, they say that even if you start exercising when you're 65 and you never exercised your whole life, like it almost changes your body to that, like as if you had. If you have any healthy habit for 3 years, they say that it's almost as if you had that habit your whole life. So get started. But is alcohol going the way of cigarettes? Yes, because we have health studies that say there's no safe amount of alcohol. And the American Cancer Society came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago saying we shouldn't drink. Like, not 1 drink a day, not 2 drinks a day, no drinks. Like, that's what they're saying now. If you want to prevent your risk of cancer, and heart disease will be next, you shouldn't be drinking. And so it takes a while, though. Just because the health studies come out doesn't mean our culture completely changes overnight, right? I mean, look at smoking. Back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the majority of Americans were smoking and or brought up in that culture that smoking is part of being independent, cool, modern, all this kind of stuff. And it really took a long time for that to change. And it took a long time too for the cigarette industry to finally own up to what the effects of cigarettes were on our body. It took a really long time. There was so much misinformation back then. There was so much like studies that were paid for by the cigarette industry to continue showing that they're not harmful for you. And that same thing happens with the alcohol industry. And there's so much just misinformation. And so I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but if you grow up now, it's much less likely that you're a heavy smoker now than if you grew up, say, in the 50s. And maybe you even think to yourself, oh God, I'm so lucky I grew up today and not like 70 years ago, because maybe you know someone who had a horrible health catastrophe happen to them because they were a smoker, and it's almost like you feel bad because like back then they didn't even know better. You know what I mean? It was such a time of misinformation. It was such a time of conditioning. Everyone was conditioned to smoke cigarettes, right? And the same thing's happening today. So today, for like it's been going on for a long time, but literally the last 20 years in the history of alcohol, we've been conditioned to drink more than ever before. You used to not be able to walk outside and have a brewery on every corner. Mommy juice used to not be a thing. So like the way that how aggressive alcohol both marketing and the trends that have happened in our society have grown exponentially in the last 20 years. In fact, so much so that there's so many cases in hospitals of people going to hospitals having dangerous consequences from drinking, and they're not anywhere near close to being like what you'd consider alcoholics. They like maybe binge drink a little, or they pretty much just have a typical over drinking kind of characteristic, but not anywhere near the dangerous levels, and yet they're already getting the adverse health effects that's happening in our hospitals today. And if you talk to like professionals in the ER or in all this kind of stuff, like it's really rampant. So it's really kind of scary that our consumption levels went up so high. But hopefully because of that, we're also entering a new era. We're entering a new era of more awareness and consciousness. And when you have more awareness and consciousness, it's really hard to continue doing something to yourself that you know isn't serving you. And that's the beauty of it, is some people think like, oh, I'd rather not know, I'd rather be ignorant about it. But you know what you're also ignorant on? Like the rest of your dreams and your desires and your intuition and all your gut feelings. So just by allowing yourself to become more introspective and aware and being in this group and watching these videos, like you're allowing your consciousness to shift. And if you're already taking a break from alcohol or going alcohol free, like how amazing is that for you? You're already so ahead of the bell curve. So why are cigarettes or alcohol going the way of cigarettes? Again, like I said, our norms are shifting. Never before have we had like mocktail bars popping up all over the world. So many alcohol-free groups on meetups. So many new alcohol-free kind of take back the night almost activities like raves and dance parties and soirees and all this stuff. they're launching just alcohol free because it's like this idea like, one, why does dancing have to come with an intoxicant? Why does like living your life freely and having fun and being with your friends, why does that have to come with an intoxicant? Like, why are we damaging our health just to socialize? Why? I mean, isn't that weird, right? Like, we go out on a Friday night and we socialize with our friends and we just accept the fact that we have to be sick the next day and we have to not feel good the next day. And even if you don't drink like 10 drinks, if you just have 3, you're still not going to feel great the next day. You know what I mean? Why have we accepted that as okay? Why? You know, it does not have to be that way. And that's why I'm so excited for next week's Think Like a Non-Drinker challenge, because it's all about imagining this reality where alcohol doesn't exist. And we actually ask ourselves, like, why is it this way? Why is the current reality set up this way? Because it's not serving us. So if alcohol are going the way of cigarettes, one, like the same health risks and cancer risks are implicitly interrelated with alcohol. That's the facts that are coming out. And so it's up to you. Like, am I going to worry about that for the rest of my life? Or am I going to act now to make the changes that I want to see? And it doesn't mean I'm telling everyone, oh my God, you have to quit alcohol yesterday. But you have to be curious about it. You have to be aware. You have to start thinking about it. You have to start reflecting on it. Does this serve me? Does this help me go where I want to go? Should I like cut back? Would it help me to take a long break? Would it help me to really look at this? You know, I share so often that I was 30 years old and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had this underpinning, like, gut feeling that I was made for more and that I was meant to do something, and it was so strong, and yet I had no idea what. And being so confused like that, I didn't know where to start. And guess where I finally started? I started with my relationship with alcohol. All the answers that I was looking for about how I should live my life, what I should do with my life, how I'll find meaning, fulfillment, impact, happiness, all of that I found by just looking into my relationship with alcohol. Like, that's where I started, and that's the momentum that I needed to explore all of these other facets in my life. Because drinking isn't just a habit that we do like on a Friday night. It has these underpinnings. It's completely related to our limiting beliefs, to our insecurities, to these false fears that we have. And when you look into your relationship with alcohol, you start to uncover all that stuff and you start to process through all of it. And the way that it spills over into other areas of your life, like, it's tremendous. This is why I love to do the work that I do, because my clients and students will make massive changes in their life. Like, write books and launch businesses and nonprofits and form communities and do all of this crazy stuff they never believed they were capable of before. That's what looking into your relationship with alcohol will do. It's so crazy. So, alcohol is probably going to go the way of cigarettes. And it's going to take a long time probably for the rest of the mainstream culture to get there, though. It's happening in wellness circles. It's happening in personal growth circles. It's happening here. You're doing it. But it's probably going to take a while for other people to catch on, the normal society to catch on. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with knowing, like, I'm a leader here. I'm like thinking of the future. I am way ahead of the curve on this. And understand that alcohol, the like normal society might take a while to catch up. And maybe you're in disbelief. Maybe you're like, no, alcohol will never go the way of cigarettes. Everyone will always drink. Drinking will always be part of our culture. It always has been, blah, 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 blah. Let me ask you this, though. As science continues to advance and we continue to have technological breakthroughs and health breakthroughs, do you really think in 100 years from now we're still going to poison ourselves just to socialize? Or do you think some genius is going to come up with something that's non-toxic maybe, and still maybe changes your mind a little bit, and then there'll be a new drink or a new thing that we do, and it doesn't have to be so unhealthy, and it doesn't poison ourselves, and it doesn't lead to heart disease and cancer and all this stuff? Isn't that way more plausible than thinking that alcohol will be around forever? Because, like, we grow out of stuff as humans. We totally do, right? I mean, 100 years ago, women couldn't even vote. Like, half of society, the whole bedrock of how we even propagate our species, was not valued, and continues to, like, we work on that. We still have so much progress to be made in that area. And it wasn't that long ago where women were completely devalued for the way that they contribute to society. So our society changes all the time. It evolves all the time. And just because we did something 100 years ago or 10,000 years ago, like does not mean it's a constant that's going to continue with us through our evolution. We are evolving to more consciousness. We are evolving to a place where you don't have to settle and live a life where you just get a job to pay the bills and you do all these things to check boxes to appease society and your parents, where you can actually find what's fulfilling to you and go out and do your thing and live life on your terms. That's where we're heading. We're heading to more love. We're heading to more compassion, more empathy. And to think that alcohol will always be part of that equation is, I think, kind of naive. Like, if we have more consciousness, more awareness, more health and technological breakthroughs, it's very likely that alcohol will completely stop being used. And maybe not by everyone, I mean, think about cigarettes. Like, people still smoke. People totally still smoke these days. But how different is it? How different is it now from when you even grew up? And then look at how different it is from when you grew up to back in the 50s and 60s. Like, it has changed a lot. For example, I live in California, and California was probably one of the earlier states to completely not allow smoking inside and then even outside and all these things. And today I can say that I don't know anyone who smokes. I don't know anyone who has a regular smoking habit. Nobody. That's not to say I didn't know people who used to smoke. That's not to say I didn't smoke myself when I was younger. That's not to say that, it wasn't a thing when we were in college. But today, I don't know anyone who regularly smokes. Nobody. So yes, people still smoke, right? Clearly they do. You can still see them some places, but not like in my reality in California, I don't know anybody who does it. So imagine if that could be the reality for alcohol. And again, it's not this idea that everybody has to quit drinking, but imagine as we continue to evolve in awareness, in consciousness, in what we know about health, what we know about science, what we know about hanging out in your comfort zone versus pushing yourself out of it and finding other healthier coping mechanisms, alcohol is going the way of cigarettes. It is. We see it in the social scene. There are so many alternative beverage companies coming up today, like non-alcoholic craft beers are huge. Non-alcoholic other alternative drinks are getting big, like mocktails and other concoctions that have almost nothing to do with the flavors of alcohol. They're coming up and they're huge. Alcohol industry is investing in these drinks, and who knows, maybe literally in 10 years from now you'll go to a bar and half the people will be drinking non-alcoholic drinks. Why not? Why couldn't that be the reality? Maybe by the time I have a child and they're in college, they will not be pressured to drink alcohol. Maybe some people still do, but it's not the dominant thing that every single teenager goes through. Why not? Why not? Why can't we have that reality? I'm very hopeful that that's where reality is going, and I'm pretty confident that it is. And that nobody will have to become conditioned to drink alcohol as a teenager anymore. And it won't be the dominant way that we handle socializing and celebrating and commiserating and all that stuff. That's where society is going. So is alcohol going the way of cigarettes? I believe so. And I believe that by being here and either thinking about your relationship with alcohol, taking a break, or being committed to an alcohol-free life, you're light years ahead of the bell curve. You are light years ahead. I mean, literally in 10 years from now, I bet you doctors will say that we shouldn't be drinking. And how much will that suck for the people who have really, really strong habits and never ever looked into their relationships with alcohol? And maybe in 10 years from now, it won't be such a social thing. And maybe in 10 years from now, there'll be something new and alcohol will be kind of the thing of the old generation, and the new generation will not do it. Imagine that. And imagine being never looking into your relationship with alcohol and then being stuck 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And it's not even really a dominant trend in our society anymore. And it only lowered your self-esteem and lowered your health and lowered all of your life's goals and ambitions. You would be pretty mad, right? I would be mad. So you are a genius by being here today. You are a genius because not only are you forward thinking, you're so ahead of the bell curve. You're taking care of your relationship with alcohol now. You're thinking about it. You're curious about it. You're taking a break. You're living alcohol free already. You're sober. You're all of these things, and you're ahead of the bell curve. And you are going to be so ahead of the game when it comes to your health, your longevity, and your life goals. Because alcohol, here's the thing. Alcohol numbs your drive. Alcohol numbs your motivation. And it's so easy because drinking alcohol is like hanging out in your comfort zone. So when you hang out in your comfort zone by drinking, you also then it's very easy to hang out in your comfort zone for all the other things in your life. You know, your career, your like dreams, the things that you really want to do. It's like, someday. Someday I'll do that. Someday I'll write a book. It's so easy, and I know so well because I was stuck in that for so many years. And I'm so grateful that I had an awakening. And, you know, people will have awakenings in their life through all different kinds of things. Maybe they'll go through a scary health diagnosis. Maybe they'll go through a divorce. Maybe they'll go through a mid-age life crisis. Maybe they'll quit their jobs. But for you, you know, because you're here, you'll probably have your awakening because of your relationship with alcohol. And in a way, your challenge will become your greatest gift because the awakening that you get there will spill over in every little facet of your life. It will manifest so much of everything that you've always wanted as long as you commit to growing and progressing yourself and never stop the journey of like getting back up again, even when you fail, even if you drink again, even if you just started drinking again after taking a long break. Like, commit to not stop learning, commit to not stopping to show up, learn, absorb, reflect, and try again and try again and try again and try again and try again. Failure really doesn't exist in this realm. Failure means like, I'm going to stop thinking about it and looking at it and like go back to my old ways and go back to being ignorant. That's failure. Drinking again isn't failure. Like, I would never use the word relapse because that's just a learning experience. And if you commit to getting back up again and you commit to learning about it and you commit to all these things, like, you will never fail. As long as you keep looking the right direction and taking baby steps in the right direction, you can't fail. So you need to ask yourself, in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, when alcohol really goes the way of cigarettes, like, what side of the bell curve do I want to be on? Do I want to be the front-facing bell side of the bell curve who handled this in 2020 and started thinking about it and changing my relationship with alcohol then? Or do I want to be at the tail end of the bell curve and being one of the last stragglers that's kind of still, you know, dealing with alcohol as a predominant factor in their life when the rest of society moves on? And it will move on. Like, that's just where we're going. That's where we're going. Alcohol is gonna go the way of cigarettes. It might take a while, and there'll always probably be a niche of people that continue drinking. I'm not saying not, like, people still smoke, but just like I said earlier, today in California, I don't know one person who smokes regularly. Not one person. Not one person. That's kind of crazy. And think about how predominant it was in our culture. Think about how predominant it was 70 years ago. Think about how predominant it was even when we were growing up. And today, I don't know one smoker. So imagine where alcohol is going to go in 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Just imagine. Imagine some scientist comes up with some kind of beverage that doesn't give you hangovers and still makes you feel relaxed. Like, how quick will people go to jump onto that, you know? It's totally possible that all of this will happen. It's the way it's going. It's the way that our health studies and the way that even doctor recommendations will go. It's the way that even our social situations are going. Like, there's more mocktail bars than ever now before. There's more alternative drink companies coming up every single month. Every single month there's a new alternative drink company with like a fun adult beverage that comes up. It's the way that even like there's like raves and DJ dance party scenes and all this like cool fun stuff for young people that's alcohol free now. It's millennials are drinking less than like the older generations. Like, we are going on this path to higher consciousness and we're evolving as a human species, and alcohol will go the way of the cigarettes. It totally will. So you got to ask yourself, am I on the front side of the bell curve? Am I like future facing? Am I ready to change now? Am I ready to continue evaluating the role of alcohol in my life, continue questioning it, getting curious, taking a break, taking an extended break, not drinking at all? Or am I going to be at the end of the bell curve where like everyone else shifts and I'm still stuck in this kind of habit? Anyway, I hope that was food for thought, because I totally truly believe that alcohol will go the way of cigarettes. And it's just a matter of time, and it's kind of really exciting because there's only one reason why I became a drinker. Like there's probably a lot of reasons, but like it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't conditioned to drink. If teenagers weren't expected to drink, we probably all wouldn't have become drinkers eventually, right? So Like, just changing that alone will make such a huge difference in our society. Such a huge difference. If, like, the next generation doesn't feel pressured to start drinking to prove their independence and all this stuff, like, how incredible will that be for the next generation? And that they don't have to form these unhealthy habits and never explore what it means to socialize on their own and learn how to do it authentically as they are and work through their insecurities or some of their emotions and pain without something that numbs it and makes it worse. Like, how beautiful for society will that be? So, again, I do believe alcohol is going the way of cigarettes. The health studies, the shifts in our cultures showing that one day it will be the outliers who continue to drink ethanol, and we'll probably have something new. You know, there'll probably be something new that isn't toxic, that doesn't take, like, that isn't horrible for your body, that isn't all these things. It's highly likely with our technology and health advancements that we'll have that drinking will really go by the wayside and it won't be the dominant culture anymore. Again, just by being here, you're on the like front end of that bell curve, and you're gonna be like the one that also can help so many people. Like, seriously, your friends will go to you one day and be like, how did you do that? How did you change your relationship with alcohol? Like, that's amazing. People will start to like really look up to you, really aspire to be you, and really want what you have. And trust me, even if they're not telling you right now, they probably already do aspire to you. When you think of a non-drinker, someone who's never drinking before and like is also still like an amazing personality and they're fun and they're exuberant, have you ever been jealous? Like, oh my God, they've never had a hangover. They don't have to drink to feel confident. Like, all of these things, you are that example for other people, and people will start to ask you how you did it. Trust me, it will be your source of expertise, and it will be like a role model position that you fill. Like, whether or not you notice it or not, people will want what you have because what you have is so amazing. A transformed relationship with alcohol is like one of the most valuable things you could ever have because it's not easy. It's not talked about in our society. We have old school like mental models about it and super bad misinformation around it. And actually like going through it and transforming your relationship with alcohol and becoming happy that you don't have to drink is a superpower. It's your superpower. And you will be so grateful that you gave yourself this gift of self-love. You really will. So thank you so much for joining. 32 minutes I have been talking. It's time to get off. I really appreciate you. Make sure if you haven't joined yet, the Think Like a Non-Drinker Challenge starts next Monday, and you can't join late. There'll be no way to join late, so you need to join now. There's limited spots if you haven't joined yet. It's in the link in my bio on Instagram and the link here on Facebook. And if you're already in, I can't wait because this is the world we're going to dream up. We're going to dream up a reality where drinking doesn't exist, and then we're going to let our like brains go, what would that look like? What could we do? What could we accomplish? What could our amazing life look like? And then make sure that we combat the old programming, that inner saboteur that wants to keep you stuck and down, because it's time to face that person and tell yourself, I deserve so much more. I deserve so much better. I'm ready to live the life of my dreams. Okay, thank you for joining.